Hey everyone, it's Lumi here, and over the weekend I was able to participate in the closed network test of the Duskbloods, which is Fromsoftware's upcoming exclusive on the Nintendo Switch 2. I have a lot of thoughts to share, and so I thought that I would do a little bit of a quick and lazy YouTube upload, just doing some unscripted yapping, talking about the game. So please do forgive me if I stutter on my words, if my thoughts aren't organized properly, and in general if I'm just a mess. I have not been on YouTube very actively recently, and I would like to apologize for that. It's been really hard to get the motivation to work on scripted videos. I have a ton of work in progress videos at the moment, but I have just not had the drive to finish them all. So I thought it would be good to break this period of inactivity with a little bit of a quicker, lazier upload. First and foremost, I am not allowed to share any of my own footage or screenshots of the closed network test, so the footage that you're seeing in the background here is the official footage provided by Fromsoftware and trailers and all of that stuff, because yes, I'm not allowed to share my own footage, as much as I would love to. So let's get the first thing out of the way. What exactly is the Duskbloods? I feel like this is a question that a lot of people have been asking themselves, and finally we have gotten the answers, and it's quite an ambitious game for Fromsoftware. It is nothing really like what we've seen before, although I will say that the game has a lot of similarities to last year's Elden Ring Night Rain. The Duskbloods is a brand new IP from Fromsoftware, very heavily drawing on the aesthetics of vampires and romanticism and a whole bunch of other things. It's got a very, very cool visual style, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing all the other maps that we get in the full game, because this closed network test only had the singular map with only a few of the playable characters available to play as. It is a PvPvE game, so players versus enemy or environment game, where I would say that the PvP aspect is mostly mandatory in this network test, but also you could kind of get away with not engaging with other players all too often. The way the game works is that the game takes place in 4 different phases. In the first phase, you spawn into the map and you begin exploring, killing enemies, acquiring upgrades, and accomplishing mini objectives in order to earn virtue points. Then, from round 2 onwards, the players with the least amount of virtue points on the leaderboard, the bottom 2 players specifically, are eliminated, and this process repeats until there are only 3 players left for the 4th round. In the 4th round, all of the 3 remaining players are spawned into an arena together, and they have to fight to the death in order to determine the victor. I'm sure that in the final game there's going to be more final round variants so that you don't have to engage in PvP for the final round, but that's the general gist of it. Essentially, just imagine Elden Ring Night Rain, but instead of being cooperative, it's competitive. Although that being said, there are some cooperative elements to the game. You are able to forge alliances mid-match. You could also queue to be in teams if you just want to start in teams from the get-go and have a team from start till finish of the match. And I should say, with the standard queuing, if you do forge any alliances, they are broken off for the final round, so that you can't just have a 2v1 situation in the final round, and then, you know, you and your co-op partner win the game just like that, because that would be pretty annoying to get to the final round by yourself, and then suddenly you're facing a 2v1 because, well, you got teamed up on, too bad. So it's nice that, yes, the alliances do break up in the standard mode, but if you want to have an alliance throughout the entire match, there is a matchmaking setting for it that was available in this network test, which was really nice to see. I didn't try it out myself personally. I was queuing mostly for standard matching, but there were plenty of moments throughout my games where I did ally myself with another player, whether that was to take down a strong boss and get rewards for everyone involved in the fight, or if it was beneficial to me in that situation, such as if I was falling behind and I needed a boost with, you know, the assistance of another player, or if I spawned in with a special mechanic called a sigil, where in 2 of my games in the network test, I had a sigil that essentially said that I needed to go and find a specific player and ally myself with them in order to earn a bunch of extra virtue points. And in fact, I was able to win my first ever match by doing this. I was really struggling on my first ever match, but I did manage to find the person the game wanted me to ally with, and it turned out that that person was at the very top of the leaderboard and already knew what they were doing and how to play the game. And so we basically spent Phase 3 going around the entire map, just completing objectives, killing bosses, killing other players, and really just dominating the whole entire map. And I was able to earn enough points in order to get into the final round, where I then had to turn upon the very person who had saved me from being eliminated, and I actually did win my first match, which was very exciting. Just like Night Rain, you don't customize your own character per se. You pick from a set list of characters with their own backstories and personalities and mechanics and whatnot. And for the network test, I was eager to try out most of the characters, but I found myself sticking with John Duskblood himself, the default character that you start the game as, which is Albert. Albert is very much a jack of all trades. He has a little bit of everything. He has some really nice mechanics, which I should mention, just like Night Rain, the characters do all have unique skills. Every character starts with 1 skill, but upon reaching a certain level, you do gain access to a second skill, and you can swap between both of the skills on the fly. They both have their own respective cooldowns as well. Every character also has their own passives, and so really there's a lot to learn with every character and how to play them optimally and really just how to get used to them, because my goodness, just in general, this network test was a lot to get used to. The network test did have the introductory tutorials of the game and a lot of lore actually to uncover. In fact, I did spend a significant amount of time poring through the game's archive in order to read as many of the item descriptions as possible. But I'm not going to talk too much about the story and lore in this video, simply because the lore that we did get from this network test was very minimal. We still don't know too much about what's really going on in the Duskbloods other than the basic premise, that being that certain figures with special blood are summoned to this grand tournament at the dawn of humanity in order to fight over the first blood. Essentially, they're fighting over control over the fate of the rest of humanity. And so that's why you're competing against other players and trying to kill them and whatnot. There were little bits of backstory I could find on all of the characters, which was nice. But yes, until the full game comes out, I won't be talking too much about the lore. But when the full game does come out, I am actually very interested in making a lore video, perhaps covering the stories of all of the playable characters. So do let me know if that's something that you'd like to see, because while I do love the gameplay of Fromsoftware games, I definitely prefer to talk more about the lore and story. I find analyzing the games from that angle to be a very rewarding experience, since it does heavily incentivize paying attention to even the smallest of details and just reading a ton of item descriptions. God, I love reading item descriptions. Sorry, I got completely off track there. I feel as if I was going to be talking about gameplay or something. Yes, the gameplay is really, really chaotic. It is a lot to learn at first. The tutorials are very overwhelming. It almost feels as if you're trying to learn a tabletop game for the first time, where you're just kind of getting all of the rules dumped on you, and while you may understand all of the rules, you might not understand exactly how to best optimally go about playing in a round until you've had a couple of goes at it, which was definitely the case for me. Even though I did win my first ever match in the network test, I struggled greatly afterwards to get a second victory. I did end up getting a second victory during the final network test period, but it was a long road to get there for certain, because for the rest of my matches, I was essentially just rocking it solo. I was not really forging alliances. I wanted to see how far I could get on my own. And yes, it was very difficult to do so. Thankfully, at least with this first map of the game, and at least with this network test, the map is basically the same every single match. The only thing that changes in between matches is that certain regions will be populated with certain types of upgrades, whether that's upgrades to your character or upgrades to the spirit ashes that you can summon to help you, also known as kin. And getting a kin is a very, very important thing to do during the game's first round. First round is very much a time of setup, because no one gets eliminated at the end of the first round, and so my strategy for round 1 was essentially to acquire a kin as soon as possible, and to start getting levels and upgrades for my character's abilities, and also getting upgrades for my kin, because they can level up as well. And when they do level up, they do obtain certain new attacks and abilities. The kins are really, really fun to use, and basically everyone is using them. You know, if you're not using one, you're kind of at a disadvantage, because it is a lot easier to take down another player when you have a summon by your side, helping apply pressure and doing a lot of damage to them, and filling up their stagger gauge, because this game also does have stagger gauges. This game has a lot, and I'm sure this video is going to turn out to be a lot longer than I expected it to be when I started recording this, because there is just so much to cover with this. And I don't know how long I can yap for about it all, until I feel as if I'm saying way too much stuff. You know, I want to keep the video brief enough, but also I want to be detailed, so it's a very hard line to tread, I would say. But yes, upon getting all that setup done in Phase 1, Phase 2 and 3, and Phase 4 obviously, is where the real meat of the game begins, because that's when people are going to start getting eliminated if they don't have enough virtue points to be towards the top of the leaderboard. And the game does have a really awesome mechanic that I love. In rounds 2 and 3, at a certain point in the match, a ritual site will spawn in. In this ritual site, there are multiple points that you can capture, kind of like Capture the Flag or like King of the Hill, and you obtain a ton of points for capturing those areas and holding them at the very end of the round. Of course, other players can come along and steal those capture points from you, and so it's very important that you don't leave your capture site alone, because someone could swoop in and easily take it during those last 10 seconds of a round and claim all of those extra points for yourself. In addition, at these ritual sites, you will earn points for killing other players. You won't earn points for killing other players during other points of the map, or outside of the ritual zone, I should say. You do get a minor upgrade if you do kill another player outside of a ritual zone, but it's something that I never really felt as if I wanted to go out of my way to do. If someone was attacking me and I didn't feel bothered to try and retreat, and I was in a relatively good position with my kin being leveled up and me being leveled up and having my second ability, then sure, you know, I'll take them on, I'll take them out, and I'll get a neat little bonus. But yes, you are heavily incentivized at the ritual zones to engage in PvP, but you can avoid it entirely. You can be very sneaky, as I would often do. I would sneak into the ritual sites and find a point away from where everyone was fighting each other in order to capture and hold that point. You can also pick up 2 types of special stones at the ritual sites. There is a gold stone, which gives you extra points for capturing an area at the ritual site, and there is a red stone, or a blood stone, where you will get extra points for killing other players. So depending on your style, if you like PvP, you might want to grab that bloodstone and start killing all the other players at a ritual site. But if you're like me, and you're someone that's never really enjoyed Souls PvP, then definitely go for the gold stones and try to capture and play very defensively. Try to survive until the end of the round so that you can get all of those points from the captures. The ritual sites are so chaotic, but they are so thrilling and dramatic to go to, and ignoring them is basically going to cause you to get eliminated, because the ritual sites are where the rich will get richer, and it is also where people will make the biggest comebacks in the matches. You simply cannot ignore them. Unless you somehow have a ton of ritual points before, or not ritual points, virtue points, before the ritual site spawns in, then yeah, you basically can't ignore them. Another thing I should say is that if you are in an alliance, you will share virtue points with the capture point and the killing points at the ritual sites. So this way you are able to help carry someone else into the further rounds, but also you are able to help yourself get into future rounds. If you ally yourself with someone who clearly knows what they're doing, you can definitely get carried that way. And I really do enjoy the emphasis on forging alliances, whether that's in the middle of a match or with your matchmaking settings. It's really, really good, and I really enjoy the emphasis on co-op and forging alliances, because it definitely makes the game feel less intimidating from a beginner's perspective. And I feel like early on, it's going to be very incentivized to play the dedicated teams mode, so that you can have someone help guide you around the map and teach you where to find things. I was mentioning before that the map is very much the same in between rounds, aside from a small little bits of differences where certain regions will be populated with certain types of upgrades. And so, just like Elden Ring Night Rain, there is definitely a very rewarding gameplay loop of learning a specific routing through the map in order to power yourself up in time. And that is what I managed to do before the end of all of the network tests, is I managed to find a route that I was very happy with in round 1 that allowed me to get a lot of levels. It allowed me to get a kin and level them up a little bit, and also typically it would allow me to get a couple of early virtue points. There are some other ways of getting virtue points that I haven't mentioned, other than the ritual sites and all of that stuff. There are 2 types of commendations that are awarded throughout a match. There is the Bloodfang commendation, which is awarded to the player who has killed the most enemies on the map. And so if you're someone who is just going around killing all of the generic enemies because you don't know where to go or what to do, you will earn some virtue points if you continue to stay the top player in regards to having killed the most enemies. There's also the Collector's commendation, which is awarded to the player who has picked up the most items, because you can find a ton of items around the map, such as Molotovs and items that allow you to lure enemies. There are items that help you cure status effects and reduce status effect buildup, and there's just a lot. There is so much going on in this game, and I feel as if you really have to get your hands on the game to understand it best. So if you weren't able to play in the network test, if you didn't apply, if you don't have a Switch 2, everything that I'm saying here probably just sounds like a complete mess. And yet it works. It works so perfectly. The Duskbloods has just the right amount of planning, of calm decision-making, but also chaos, those frantic moments where alliances break apart, people turn against each other, you try to rush to a certain area, or you try to chase down a certain player just to earn enough points to make it to the next round, and it is thrilling. I cannot wait for the full game, where we're going to have more maps, more characters, and just more to build upon this incredibly strong foundation of the game. And god, I was mentioning it before, Vaylee, but the gameplay, oh my god, the gameplay feels like Bloodborne on crack. Because you're not playing as just a standard human. No, you are a Bloodsworn. You have special blood, you have special abilities, just like in Night Rain. You have your 2 abilities that you unlock, but you also have access to, I think, 3 or 4 jumps. You can jump multiple times in the air. You can do a super jump. There's air dashing. It's like an anime fighting game. It is so chaotic, it is so frantic, and yet it is such an amazing power fantasy. You feel really strong, and I really do appreciate that. As someone who absolutely sucks at Souls PvP, I was doing a lot better at the Duskbloods than I was ever expecting to, and I think one of the main reasons why is because of the emphasis on having summoned partners with you, the kin mechanic, but also because of all of the tools you have access to with your character. I found that in 1v1 situations, I wouldn't be as good, and so I would be a very opportunistic player. I would try to wait for 2 players to start fighting each other, and then as Albert, I would use his special light ray ability to just absolutely decimate someone's health bar, and when they get on low health and they start trying to retreat and their stagger gauge is built up, I would chase after them and do a heavy dash attack in order to catch them spam rolling and break their posture. And when you break an enemy's posture in this game, you can go for a riposte or a visceral, but in this game it's drinking blood because you're vampires, right? So you bite into them, you drink their blood, you do a ton of damage to other players when you do this, and you also restore your own health. But what's really cool is that against certain enemies, if you posture break them and drink their blood, then they will become your ally, and they will become your ally until they die. So another thing that I really loved to do early on was to find a group of very weak enemies and just parry them all in order to break their postures pretty much instantly, drink all of their blood, and then just have an army of little guys, or even big guys. There's some very big, intimidating enemies that you can actually hypnotize onto your side. And having those extra allies, in addition to potentially a co-op partner in your alliance, and also your summon, you feel unstoppable. The chaos is absolutely perfect. I don't know if all of this chaos is going to make for a good competitive experience if you're someone who is really big into competitive Souls PvP, but what I will say is that as someone who has never really loved Souls PvP and someone who is like absolutely awful at it, I very rarely win any invasions when I get invaded in Souls games. All of that chaos, all of those abilities, all of those options that you have to make the PvP aspect easier is so welcome, and it is so refreshing. And of course, you don't have to engage in PvP. You can just avoid other players, as I often did. Of course, with this network test, as I mentioned before, the final round was forced PvP, but I'm fairly certain that in the final game there are going to be different types of final rounds. But I wonder how they would determine the victor in those different types of final rounds. Maybe there could be a big boss fight, and whoever deals the final blow, or whoever does, you know, the most damage to the boss, you know, manages to win the game. Or maybe even a challenge to race from point A to point B as if, you know, it's Smash Run or something from Super Smash Bros. On the 3DS. Who knows? The Duskbloods has so many ideas, so many interlocking mechanics, and just so much going on that it's very intimidating to sink your teeth into. But once you get your teeth into it, once you get a couple of rounds in and you really start to understand what the game is going for and the flexibility to play as you want to play, God, it is addicting. And I cannot wait for the full game. I cannot wait to see just what Miyazaki is cooking in the full game, because he's cooking all right. He is doing something completely unlike what Fromsoftware have done before. of course, you know, Night Rain is similar enough, but this is very different from Night Rain, nonetheless. And yes, no, I'm just very much looking forward to seeing the future of this game, and I miss the Duskbloods already. I want to go back to the Duskbloods already. I want to play it again already. So we'll just have to see if the game does in fact come out for its planned release year of 2026 this year. I am a little bit worried that it might get delayed to 2027, but honestly, Fromsoftware, keep cooking. You're making something really special, and I'm really eager to continue to play through the Duskbloods with a very open mind and embrace this very experimental era of Fromsoftware. Of course, I am very much looking forward to the next single-player focused adventure from them, but for the time being, this experimental multiplayer era has been a really thrilling time and a very exciting time as a fan of all of their games. I think I have yapped for long enough. Thank you so much everyone for tuning in, I really do appreciate it. I will hopefully have some more YouTube videos out in the future. I just have a lot of work in progress videos, a bunch of reviews that I have been working on that I want to get out. I also have a bunch of lore videos that I want to make on a whole bunch of different games, not just Fromsoftware games, so please keep your eyes peeled for those, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care of yourselves, and please have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, or whatever, wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you all next time.